Diving deeper into our top story, the U.S. and Japan have announced a boost to their defense cooperation to better counter new and emerging threats, including the rapid expansion of China's military power.
Washington plans to send an agile, missile-armed Marine unit to Okinawa to enhance its air and sea capabilities. More frequent joint drills between the two are also being planned.
It comes as Tokyo seals a security pact with London that would allow both sides to deploy military forces on each other's soil. Both Japan and the UK have hailed the deal as hugely significant as they forge deeper security links amid greater global uncertainty. For more, let's speak now with Ellis Krauss. He's a professor emeritus with the School of Global Policy and Strategy at the University of California, San Diego. Professor Krauss, the U.S. and Japan marking a new phase when it comes to security cooperation. Just how significant are the latest agreements between the two countries, given the current geopolitics in the region?
They're very significant, but they are part of a continuing process whereby Japan has gradually shed its previous anti-militarist. It wasn't pacifist, but it has been anti-militarist defense posture with great limitations on what it could and couldn't do. Some limitations are still there. It is still defense-oriented. But in the last year, Prime Minister Kishida has absolutely shed some of the former taboos, if you want to call them that. And Japan has made unprecedented moves to increase its defense posture. All of this to counter what they see, and much of the world sees, as an increasingly aggressive China and the threat of North Korea, which has fired many missiles, some over Japan, in the last few years, an increasing number. So this new, deeper, more comprehensive defense alliance with the U.S., which has always been the bulwark of U.S. alliance in the Pacific, is to counter that and to mostly deter. It is not aggressive, but it is a deterrent to send a message to President Xi to quit the increasingly aggressive behavior, especially over Taiwan.
And what are your views on the U.S. planning to disperse Marine units throughout the Okinawa Islands by 2026? Is that something that will have domestic support from the people of Japan? Well,
the bases on Okinawa don't have much support as a matter of fact, in Okinawa. They have more support in Japan. It is a question of NIMBY, not in my backyard. So the Japanese are very happy for the Okinawans to bear the burden of stationing 70% of U.S. military in Okinawa, in the Ryukyu Islands, which Okinawa is the main island of that chain, as you know. And so I think the mainland Japanese, if you want to call them the main islands, will not have a problem with this. As well, there was some there's some possibility of their mitigating some of the consequences for Okinawans themselves, who generally want the bases reduced, which is not going to happen in this environment, because they're not increasing the number of Marines in Okinawa. They're just replacing a current traditional Marine regiment with what is called an MLR, or Marine Littoral Regiment, which is the new thing to provide more comprehensive and mobile units in the Marine Corps. There's one in the U.S. now that's been recently formed. This will be the second in Okinawa, and there's rumors that there will be a third in the island of Guam in the coming years. So it is not increasing the number. It is just changing their nature and making them more effective in responding to the threats from China and North Korea.
Professor, you said the goal is to deter China's aggression, put a stop to North Korea's provocative acts as well. But how effective would the latest adjustments and initiatives be in deterring China and North Korea? Would there be any risk that they may further escalate the already heightened tensions in the region?
Yes, of course. But, you know, we've learned from history, including World War II, And also from, part of this is because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that you can't deter by weakness, you can only deter by some form of strength. That's on the one side. On the other side, of course, there's always the danger that what is defensive on the part of the US and Japan will be perceived by China as more offensive. And this is part of what political scientists have a term for it, but basically it means when two countries each perceive the defensive moves of the other as being offensive, that becomes a spiral of escalation. Each country beefing up its defenses because they perceive the other country's moves as not defensive but offensive, and therefore eventually there's a greater risk of war. That is the dilemma both the US and Japan face in the rise of an aggressive China. On the Chinese side, on the other hand, China's more aggressive behavior under President Xi has been perceived very negatively in the West, and when they try to counter it with defensive moves, the Chinese blame the West for its new defensive moves, part of that spiral. But they never see their own moves in the Asia Pacific, particularly against Taiwan recently, as being the cause of these new moves in the West.
Well,
so it's definitely a dilemma.
It certainly is. Let's get back to the moves made by Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. He's visited both France and Italy as well to boost bilateral relations. He's also signed what's been described as a hugely significant new defense deal with the United Kingdom, allowing both sides to deploy troops on either's soil. What's the objective here?
Japan is expanding its defensive options. It's always been totally dependent on the US and itself, of course, for defense. But now it is moving to what Christopher Hughes at the University of Warwick, one of the top experts on Japanese defense policy, calls bilateralism plus. It doesn't replace or substitute for the main ally, the US, but what it is doing is supplementing it with a broader range of partners, defense partners, and sort of alliance partners, in order also to counter China. And in the hope that this broader spectrum of people, countries in the West opposed to aggressive moves by China will help also deter. Not only has it signed this reciprocal agreement with the United Kingdom, it has also agreed with the United Kingdom and Italy to develop a next generation fighter plane, which is also unprecedented. Most development of fighter planes have either been done in Japan with the US or on their own, but they are now doing it with European partners as well. Bilateralism plus.
Thank you very much for your expertise and views this morning, Professor Ellis Krauss from the University of California, San Diego. Thank you for joining us.